against the backdrop of something that, in my view, should be obvious to any Zimbabwean, that the phraseology a constitution, have a constitution, or you don't have a constitution. It's something that everyone has been talking about in the last 2.5 years or so. And it would be obvious, wouldn't it, that Chamisa is not going to make the type of conversation that he used to have before the capture of Harvest House. And like in the situation of a car, I mean, I'm not going to go around advertising my logbook, Professor, and say, logbook rangu irero. I've got my logbook to my car to show someone.
Don't make us
Yeah.
abnormal, Simba. You're a journalist, for
Well,
goodness
let me
sake.
finish. Let me finish, please. Let me finish, and then you can crash me. You can, yeah. So, yeah. So, in this sense here, who said that a political party must splash their constitution around and say, this is our constitution? Now, if they use certain terms, certain language, look, this is politics. They can use any language, and especially in this situation where they have a war against them that has resulted in assets being taken, bank accounts being, and all sorts. So that's the first question there. Number two is on the Shabangu case. And excuse me, it's actually on the Bible, the use of the Bibles. I think, Professor, you dwelt quite a lengthy amount of time around this area. Professor, you're someone who made a name for yourself. And I know some people might oppose you. Some people might say every ugly word about you. But no one can deny that you fought a battle, you fought things your way. When you joined and then rejoined again ZANU PF, wherever you have been a fighter. Your methodologies have been unique because you are Professor Jonathan Moyo. And there is a very large group of our population that speaks highly of you because of the way you fought. And I think right now the reason why even a cluster of ZANU PF doesn't like you is because you have been effective when you are fighting, or when you are pursuing a particular purpose. And I mean, look, even the coup itself, it would be, I think it would be wrong to deny that it's likely that the coup was done because of you and Kasukwere, not even because of Grace. Why? Because you had a way of fighting things your way. Even after the coup, while you were now against Mnangagwa, there was a way, there's a unique method, there's a language that you wielded across the passages of time, and that has made you to be who you are. I also talk about the previous periods. I hope that it is acceptable in this forum. If I breach a certain standard, please do let me know, convener.
Simba, it's about questions, not submissions. Please be mindful.
Right. Okay. Oh, there are questions, but it's just that they're lengthy, right? But I should be done anytime now. Yeah, Professor, you came from a period even during the war, okay? And some people say that you never fought in the war, and even after that period, a lot of people have said very nasty things about you. But there are things that you have done across the patches of time. So now coming to this issue of the Bible, what is wrong in Chamisa using conversations around Bible verses? And what's wrong with that? Look at how effective even Mnangagwa himself uses the Bible to keep people focused.
Simba, on this platform, he's President Mnangagwa. And Itika, Mnoita mnangagwa kumwe kwete panapa. Panapa you are going to be respectful. Just as when you're speaking to the professor, you're going to be respectful. So if you cannot address the president of the nation as the president, but can address Chamisa, who's not a president of anything, president, then we have no business hanging out with you. So the choice is entirely yours. So if you can rephrase and say President Mnangagwa, then you continue and then you can engage the professor. Thank you.
Okay, middle ground then. Vamnangagwa. Yeah, Professor Jonathan Moyo. Yeah, he has a way of fighting his battles.
Garisa.
Uh,
If that's
and
too heavy for you, the Zhen's weapon.
You need to protect our guest, man.
Yeah, Vamnangagwa has a way of he also uses Bible verses.
Garisa. If that's too heavy for you, the Zhen's weapon.
You need to protect our guest, man.
Yeah, Vamnangagwa has a way.
Well, Professor, I don't know if you want to answer any of what is put to you. You're most welcome
can
to.
I just handle what Simba is just... Professor, is that okay with you?
Yes, it is okay. But has Simba finished his question?
He hasn't. He refuses to comply. So
he's just here to just...
He refuses to comply, so he's on listeners right now until he can be respectful towards the president of the nation. That's okay. To say president, not to say Mnangagwa as if it's his friend from next door.
Yeah, inini Simba pane zvinhu zvaari kutaura mukoma Simba handisi hangu taito yavo. Kutaura kudzi capture. Ndandichida kuti vatitsanangudzire kuti conception yavo yecapture yeMDC ndeipi. Because I understand kuti pakafa MRT Mugende Richard Jangirai vaive neconstitution handiti. And the constitution was very clear on who was supposed to be the transitional or interim leader towards the Congress. And the Simba ari kubvunza kuti hanzi, how do you know kuti they don't have a constitution? You forget the first correspondence that is in the public domain. Yai request a constitution was in January. I think January 13 or somewhere thereabout. Ichibvunza Triple C tipewo constitution. And the first constitution that was handed to Parliament by Triple C was handed, is it October or the month before September? Saka, why do you say kuti, how do you know? And what's the use of a constitution if uchidyira muhomwe senzungu? A constitution is for public consumption because it constitutes something like a public benefiting entity and it's supposed to be in the open. What's the use of having a constitution that is only available for viewing upon a request or application? Those are rhetorical questions that I'm just asking you, Simba. I wish Wangao Chiripa Mike, maybe we could have a side show because I find so many things, that I wish I could answer you. Maybe you can come at a later time and we can have what was supposed to be our side show is the main show. Thank you. Prof, you can take it. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you. It's unfortunate that there has been a breakdown of communication, but it's also a good affirmation of the importance of having, if not a constitution, certainly rules of engagement whenever you're dealing with many people. And that is how the real world functions. I will, since, Simba, by the way, I should greet you. Unfortunately, you are unable to respond now. But greetings, long time. Good to see you here and to hear from you. Your direct question, how do I know? Well, it's because they said so. I have, for me, I never say anything that I cannot back up in black and white of this kind. I distinguish between matters of opinion and matters of fact. It is not my opinion that they don't have a constitution. It is the information I have from them. I can give you videos and so forth, and you will hear him saying, we don't have a constitution, we don't have an ideology, we have deliberately decided to keep away from this, we are still consulting, we will come back when we've finished our consultations, from the horse's mouth. And I think one of the problems in Zimbabwe, which in the body politic, which is exemplified by your question, is that some people don't seem to understand that in the body politic, in public discourse, there is information that is independent of all of us. It exists there as part of the public record. And there are new, younger politicians on the horizon, and Chamisa being one of them, who seem to have the view that people will go by what they say whenever they want to say it. So I guess it's part of strategic ambiguity. Today you say this and tomorrow you say something like that. It's okay about opinions. You are entitled to your own opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. But you are not entitled to your own facts. Chamisa is not entitled to his own facts. I am not, Simba, and you are not either. It is a factual issue in the public record that they have said they don't have a constitution, that they have said they don't have structures because they think that they will be infiltrated and so forth. And listen, as I can't remember now which colleague was speaking just before me who interjected, pardon me, but he made an interesting and very important point that a constitution is not a secret document. A constitution is supposed to be a living document which not only enables you and others you engage with to know who you are, who is who, what you do, what you stand for, and to be satisfied that you are not a secret society that will wake up tomorrow and commit mass murder or mass suicide or whatever, Jim Jones type. Zimbabwe is probably the only country in the world that does not require the registration of political parties. Certainly all countries in SADC except Zimbabwe, across the continent except Zimbabwe. And it is outrageous that Zimbabwe doesn't do this. It's not stupid and foolish that the rest of the countries do this. And all of them who do this, including our supposedly more democratic, more progressive neighbor across the Limpopo, South Africa, requires the registration of political parties. And and they deregister. There is a political party, I think it's called the National NPF. I can't remember. It is split from IPF. It's deregistered as we speak, and they may not participate in the forthcoming 2024 elections if they don't do 1, 2, 3 things that are required statutory by the law in South Africa that the IEC needs. And invariably, registration requires the submission of a constitution everywhere. Now, it's outrageous that anyone can come and say, how do you know I don't have a constitution? The fact that I've not given it to you or told you about it doesn't mean I don't have it. As if they don't understand that all democratic and civilized societies make it a public document. And the question doesn't become, how do you know I don't have a constitution? It becomes, why are you hiding your constitution if you have one? What is it that you're hiding? Why are you trying to be eccentric when you seek political power? In a country that is a constitutional democracy, if you don't show sensitivity to constitutionalism, why do you complain about constitutions? Why do you wake up and say there is a constitutional crisis? Are you entitled to say there's a constitutional crisis when you hide your constitution? You put a price. I think it is outrageous that anyone should do that. But it so happens, Simba, with all due respect, that in this case, I know because they said so on too many occasions to count, in black and white or on video. And then, Triple C, its history, who is who, and so forth, is not a secret that only Chamisa is privileged to know. There are many people. There's, this is an organization of Zimbabweans, and we have friends, colleagues. It's a small country. We live under the same sun. What is the big deal? Why subject a country to this mysterious thing and hide and seek over a constitution? If you do that and you want to be part of the public arena, the public discourse, I have to say, Simba, you disqualify yourself. You are free as a political leader to do that, but you will be criticized to a point where you will lose credibility, whether you like it or not, because it is an outrageous position to take, that, I'm going to keep my constitution under my bed or pillow, and it's none of your business, and you aspire to be the president of a country. It's outrageous. It's unacceptable. Yes, say it, but be prepared to suffer very serious delegitimizing consequences from endless criticism. That's the bottom line. I have to say, and I referring to the colleague who spoke before me, one reason why a constitution must be known and seen as a living thing, document, and so forth, is because, Simba, one important reason for having a constitution is that it sets out who the organization, the party is, ideologically. It spells out the responsibilities and duties spells out who the officers are, office bearers, their responsibilities and duties, membership, how you get it, how you lose it, responsibilities and duties of membership, and so forth. That's one thing, and says what needs to be done. And it's a common point of reference for those who belong to it as to who is who does what, and their responsibilities, the rights. Equally important, it tells you how you resolve conflict should it come, what are the mechanisms, what are the rights, what is due process, how you right wrongs. I give you an example, Simba. It's common cause in the public domain that there were huge problems arising from the Berekamwana candidate selection method. So serious that some people who thought, and not even thought, but knew and was understood and seen by the peers and communities where they were or participated, that they had won, only found out on that 21st of June nomination day at midnight or at night, because people withheld the nomination papers and filed them late, and in their view, in order to deny those that bumped off the list the opportunity and time to file as independents or whatever. And when they found out, there was no recourse. One straight answer to your interesting question, Simba, about the Constitution, why it needs to be known, and if it doesn't feature in those situations, then it is good. It is as good as not being there. Is that there has to be recourse to aggrieved members of the party, which is in the Constitution. There has to be a constitutional method of handling, of making complaints, and of handling and disposing of those complaints. The people who found themselves or who complained that they'd been victims of candidate imposition or whatever had no recourse. I mean, what kind of a democratic organization is that doesn't provide a method for resolving or addressing grievances of its members? A constitution is necessary for that, Simba. And when you are an organization which doesn't provide a mechanism for handling grievances in terms of even principles of natural justice, then you are a problem. It's worse if you style yourself as champions of democracy, you style yourself as the only authentic opposition. I mean, how can you be the only authentic opposition when you don't believe in constitutions? Certainly you can't be. In fact, if you think a constitution is sacred, you are not authentic. Because to be authentic, you've got to somehow present and show yourself act better than the incumbents that you are criticizing. So that's my take on that. I said a little bit more because, in fact, I'm aware of this question because we have asked it in different contexts. But I conclude again by saying I know because he has said so on many occasions, and other people. But let me say this. Sorry, I was forgetting one important point. It is the Triple C that Chamisa is trying to form, alone, pumping out everyone else, which doesn't have a constitution, and whose practice, which obviously now we all now know that he is seeing the cost of not having a constitution and is drafting one. That's a fact. But having a constitution in the end, which will make or confirm your position as a dictator, and the only one who is elected, the only one who appoints everyone else, the only one who gives assignments and tasks. He said, we don't have positions in our movement. We have tasks and assignments. And if you are the only one with a position who's going to give tasks and assignments to others, and it's unfortunate, by the way, when he said this, he was clearly talking about Welshmen and Tendai Biti. Hey, we don't believe in seniority here. We give assignments and tasks. We've given tasks to some people, and they have even failed to fulfill those tasks. That is one reason, Simba, for having a constitution to avoid having people speak like that. Political parties are collective associations. They are associational organizations, and the terms of engagement in those associations require a constitution, and if you have one, you will not hide it. If you hide it, then we will say you don't have it. Then lastly, you didn't finish this, but I think I got the gist of your question. You wanted to use my experience to say, oh no, you are unique, you do this, you do that, you are who you are. And similarly, Chamisa is who he is when it comes to religion. What's wrong with him using verses? You used whatever you're using, and he is using a religion. Well, I want to say the conversation on religion and these sort of issues really is a difficult one, and one we have to be respectful about it because it speaks to people's faith. And faith is a fundamental thing. But one of the things that we also know about faith is that faith dictates regardlessly. That's why it's faith. The linchpin, cornerstone of faith is belief. And that's why we don't want to ridicule people, mock people about their beliefs unless they encroach on the rights of other people. Now, if you go to our constitution, you will find that it enshrines people's rights to their religion. And therefore requires, celebrates religious diversity, ethnic diversity, language diversity, cultural diversity, and of course, in our everyday sense, we at least recognize political diversity as well, freedom of political choice or association. These things are very unique and different from what you were saying, Simba. I never used religion, ethnicity, language, culture as a mobilizational thing. It's wrong to use that. With those things that are enshrined in the Constitution as fundamental freedoms, that people are free to associate with whatever political party, what to belong to whatever religion, to speak whatever their language, to celebrate whatever their culture or ethnicity. Those things must not be things that you mobilize on. It is contrary to the tenets of our constitution for you to say, Sakana ndiri tribe and city do not Twitter every day. Ndinenge my sayings from my tribe in my tribe. What's your problem with that? My problem with that is we are diverse in those things and each one matters. And if I'm a Muslim and you are force feeding me my verse from the Bible every day, I will suspect that you are not the sort of person who should be my leader. You are not embracing me. Progressive religious leaders acknowledge religious diversity. They don't go waving. Kana uchida kuita izozo, yenda ikoko ku religion yako, muweve ikoko, kwa munuwe magafanana. But you can't be coming Kwatiri Takawanda where we have diversity and where the constitution requires. Those things that I outlined, Simba, are wrong things to use by any politician for mobilizational purposes. As it going, kushandisa tribe yako, language yako, culture yako, and want it in deals. That's who I am. This is my anchor. Pane problem, papo. It's and it's different. It's also like I would want to engage in things that actually highlight, accentuate, expose facilitate all religious groups, all ethnic groups, all cultural groups, all language groups, you know. And I think this is so basic. We shouldn't be sitting Twitter space saying, ngati tezozo, you know. Nelson shouldn't put us in a corner where we discuss these things. And faith is between you and Mwari wako. There is something called interfaith. Ngati sangane ikoko. And we have mature religious practices and religions in Zimbabwe, including the Catholic Church, the Zimbabwe Christian Council. They understand this. They also understand that there are other people who don't believe in any religion. They understand that we are a secular state. You know, I'm actually quite surprised that there is an attempt to defend this, to say, it is okay. And I saw a response not too long ago from Chamisa himself saying, when it comes to Bible, that is who I am, that is my anchor. Yes, but keep it kumbakwaku. Why are you bringing who you are religiously to public platform where we subscribe to different religions and so forth? Your point, Yacho Simba, I want to assure you, comrade, I say this with the greatest of respect. It's not an attack on the religion itself. It's an attack on the attempt to use religion as a political platform for mobilizing people. And I do so partly because I also have had my own experience working one-on-one in Chamisa. And one of the things that really put me off is this thing where you have, a concept, something that requires debate and discussion. And then when everyone feels that the rational course of action is X or Y, Nelson will say, thanks, but for me, I'm not yet decided because God hasn't spoken to me about this. God needs to speak to me, and I know God will speak to me. Now, that is the foundation of a dictator, because it is irrational to convince me that actually Mwarano kufonera iwewe. And then kanachi kufonera iwewe, inina singandufonera, it's disturbing. Kuti Mwari uyu, why is it discriminating? Are we kufonera iwewe because you are president or what? Why is not everyone God's child and all of us God's children? Why? And then when you come out in the public and say, let's compete, the Constitution says a multi-party society, a competitive democracy through political parties, therefore there will be different leaders competing for political power. Iwewe, wajaira kuita mavesa ako papa, then gare, wobuda uche manya uchita, Mwadakataura nini nezuro arguti ndini ndasarudzwa kuti nditonge nyika iyi. I mean, that is outrageous. God should not interfere in people's choices, and he doesn't. And the world has come a long way dealing with these things. We can't believe, we can't start behaving like we're in the primitive, primordial stages of society, as if we are not aware of the evolution of history and where we are and the importance of people's choices. It's wrong. Because if you say, Shandisa mavesako, but then next time you are using your verses as an instrument to impose yourself and scare everyone, and send them to hell by saying, Zinda Sarudza, So, no, Simba, I really am sensitive to your concern, but you must understand, if you are going to live with a diverse public, you should also use diverse values. Thank you. Hello?
Hi, Professor. We're still here. I think let me just take on and ask, do my piece. I was waiting earlier. Just to pick up from what you've just said regarding the church, I think there's a video that Chamisa said triple C could use a door saka. God forbid akapinda mpawa tinogotadza kuitisa delta mari, and it will be difficult. We'll probably live in an open air prison because wanaita chivanhu vanenge apa ma1, but that's just comedy on the sidelines. First thing I just want to say thank you, Professor, for the work you've done to date for the country. I think when you're in government, you did a lot to promote the local media landscape, and our musicians definitely improved, our videos improved, so that was something that we'll always attribute to you. So in discussions earlier, you mentioned with him the one thing that we cannot that's important that we need to deal with is values, but we can't really address that kind of person if the economy is not working. And I think I can resonate with the idea of what our values as a nation. For me, I'll be looking at it from a point of what's our national identity, because that's always been a gray area, because the only thing that keeps us together for some is cannot name two, but then that starts defining you. But as a nation, there isn't something particular that says this is above. This is how I identify myself as a Zimbabwean, because a lot of us who identify ourselves based on our political affiliations. So, having discussions on this group so many times, it's about wondering